You know, what we're witnessing right now is, quite frankly, the greatest legislative failure in American history.
What's up, guys? I'm Daniel Knightley, and this is Knightley Disclosure, providing you with fact-driven, non-biased coverage on the UAP UFO phenomenon. So today, what I want to talk about is the reasons why I got into this in the first place, and what really brought this home for me, and that is legislation. Because as we know, the world moves based on policy and legislation, at least in the democratic world, and when senators put pen to paper, that's when you start paying attention, which is really why I need this to hammer home for guys, those of you that are on the fence about this, as to why this is not only just so important, but it is in fact real. And this is what proved to me, after doing all my research, this was the tipping point for me where I realized, wow, this really is real and this really is going on. So, Senator Mike Rounds and Senator Chuck Schumer, Majority Senate Leader, by the way, for the Democratic Party, wrote a piece of legislation called SA2610. So it's a Schumer, well, it's actually the Rounds-Schumer amendment, because the first one was SA797, which was the Schumer-Rounds amendment. This time, Rounds has done it, and effectively Schumer is there as a co-sponsor of the bill. But what this basically is asking for is eminent domain over all reverse engineering programs within private aerospace, okay? So what they want, in layman's terms, is to effectively say, look, we know this is going on. They've been briefed in skiffs so many times now by whistleblowers that this is what it's come to. It's come to writing a policy that was meant to go into the National Defense Authorization Act for 2024, which it didn't. And I'll explain why in a minute. This is fundamental in pushing for disclosure, which is why these two are very important to this process. As I said on my TikTok channel recently, Chuck Schumer retweeted one of Trump's posts on X, basically saying after signing an executive order to find out who killed JFK, Chuck Schumer then retweeted, said, that's great, now do the same for UAP. That was his tweet. So it's really important that we pay attention to very powerful people within the Senate that are actually doing these things and saying these things, because they're clearly aware. The function is to get congressional oversight of the executive branch and find out what the hell is going on. Because right now, the way it's operating, it is in breach of the Constitution. It's illegal what they're doing. They've chucked this into private aerospace, and it is controlled in part by the deep state, but we just don't know who. And that has been the issue for the past 80 years, which is why people have not been told about this or have been unalived in all sorts of horrible, nefarious acts that have taken place over the past 50, 60 years. This bill is still so important. And David Grush attested to this. He said this in an interview. He said that this is the tipping point for humanity. If this doesn't pass, we're in a serious situation, which we are now because it was blocked already. But here's a summary of what ChatGPT says about SA2610, okay? And it took me a while to do this, but here we go. The bill, titled the Unidentified Anomalous Phenomenon Disclosure Act of 2024, is intended to establish a centralized process for reviewing, preserving, and publicly disclosing government records related to unidentified anomalous phenomenon. Its primary function is to ensure transparency and accountability regarding the federal government's knowledge and involvement with UAP. It calls for the creation of an independent review board to oversee the identification, organization, and declassification of relevant documents, including technologies of unknown origin and potential non-human intelligence evidence. The goal is to provide the public and scientific community with access to these records for historical purposes, national security considerations, and to foster open scientific research. Let that sink in. This is policy, okay? Now, this passed the Senate with flying colors. It got blocked in the House by these three people, and I'm going to name and shame them so you know who they are. Mike Rogers, Mike Turner, and Senator Mitch McConnell. Now, I don't need to tell you to go and do some research on who their big campaigners are, who their donors are, who's paying them to keep them in the positions they are. I think you'll find it quite interesting how the two are related. Look at the past 15 years of where their campaign money's coming from. Kind of makes sense that they're doing this. So those three people at least, have exposed themselves, because now we know some of the gatekeepers. Those three, I'm sure, are well aware of what's going on and have been paid off by said aerospace firms to keep this quiet. It's that simple. This is not rocket science. It's very easy to do this. It's all publicly available for everyone to look at. Now, I will leave a link to this amendment in the description below on congress.gov to prove its existence, because it is there. Okay, this isn't woo-woo. This is real. This is the tipping point for me. This is the reason why I'm so assertive and passionate about this topic, because now I know that there's lying going on. I will not drop this. I'm not having someone tell me that the sky is not blue. Let me tell you something. the sky's blue for both you and me. Doesn't matter where we are, which is why it's so important, certainly for you in America, to push this with your local representatives. It's so important that you keep this alive and you use this. You tell them about SA2610. You tell them that it's a real document and it's something that needs to be addressed. It's that simple. But now we know the 3 people that have blocked this bill. If you come from the state that they're in, I don't recommend they get re-elected. You know, we've already heard about what happened with Mike Turner, I believe. You know, he's been booted off his chair as the, off the, I think it was the Intel committee or something. But it's basically, it's a good move, but at the same time, we need to be aware of the facts. These are facts, whether you like them or not. And without this, we can't move forwards. This has to pass. This has to pass. And that's why I'm on this. That's why I'm doing this every day, because of this amendment right here. And it's really important for you guys to understand that this isn't about ego. This isn't about your personal feelings anymore. We are dealing with a universal issue, okay? We are summoning these things down through psionics, as said by Jake Barber and his team. What is a psionic?
A psionic person is someone with a predisposition for extratemporal, you could say, abilities and sensitivities.
Extratemporal abilities, also known as psychic powers.
We are doing nefarious things to once again get ahead. And we're doing this with things that aren't from here. What are the consequences of that? This is why we need congressional oversight. They are clearly doing things that are illegal, that are inhumane to these things in mass to try and get a technological advance. That's all this is. It's we're doing the same thing we've always done. History is written in blood, and we're doing the same thing again now. It's unacceptable. And we have to do this. If we do this to the wrong group of UAP or whatever, you know, we could be facing some sort of extinction level event. If they're like, you know what, we can't deal with these guys anymore, just get rid of them. You know, certainly if they're coming here from somewhere else, we're at an immediate disadvantage. So I really need you guys to brush up. You don't have to read the whole thing, just copy and paste it into ChatGPT and it will give you a nice summary of what this means. But this is a real document that was not done 50, 60 years ago. This was done last year and it was blocked last year. And you guys need to know that.
You know, you had a very strong amendment for government transparency on this issue, whether you believe my allegations or not. This is a government transparency issue at large. And, the legislation was modeled off of, previous government transparency issues. I mean, so we had a mixed bag of success, right? If we believe the conference report that was submitted last week, Section 1687, which effectively fences off money to illegal special access programs, something that Marco Rubio, Mark Warner, and his staff on the Senate Select Committee for Intelligence championed. That did make it through conference, and I do congratulate the senators that pushed hard to make sure that that was not removed during conference to help further this effort.
It leaves the door open for anything that is, quote, national security, we get to keep secret.
100%, and that's why we were going to have a neutral 9-person panel, and all that was enumerated in the Schumer rounds, amendment earlier this year, and that was not written in a vacuum. That was written, with other individuals bringing them information as well.
So it's really important that I hammer this home to you guys to make you understand, as a foundation, where we are right now and who's on the good side, who's on the bad side. As far as I'm concerned, Mike Rounds and Chuck Schumer are in my good books, and they should be for you as well. That's it for now, guys. This is, as I say, nice and quick as always. But yeah, please do your research and stay up to date with daily updates. You heard it first here from DK, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Thank you.